Constitution was ordained and established by the people of the United States for themselves, for their own government, and not for the government of the individual states. How do you like that?
You want to translate that?
That means that, like I said, when Congress, which is the United States, set up the Bill of Rights, it was only for them and their constituents in the District of Columbia for their own government, and not for any of the governments of the individual states.
Well,
It says each state established a constitution for itself, and in that constitution provided such limitations and restrictions on the powers of its particular government as the judgment dictated. The people of the United States, now I'm talking about the states, so this is where people have got to learn the United States is not the United States, what they believe to be. The United States is that little bunch of criminals, the 535 people called Congress. In other words, Congress is doing business as the United States. Plain and simple. That's the bottom line of the whole thing.
Now, is the United States of America a different thing?
Nope. The United States of America. Of is, if you go to the dictionary, any dictionary means belonging to. Are you not of your mother and father?
Right, right.
Okay. I just stated that you are of, belonging to, or from your mother and father.
And what does the word America do to change any of the color of the United States?
The United States belonging to America. America is the country. The United States is not the country.
Ah.
America is the country. If you go back into the old books and you get some of the old letters that I have, the people in Europe called this America. They didn't call it the United States. Oh, well, we're going to America. We find that there are many things in America that we would like. And on. I have reams of letters backdated in 1600 all the way up to 1790. And they all, and if you go in some of the old archives in the different states, and you look at the archives, you'll see America written across North America, separating Canada and Mexico. And it is termed, not the United States like it is today, it's termed America. Why have a song, America the Beautiful? Why not the United States be the beautiful?
And God bless America.
Right. Not God bless the United States.
Well, was America always used to be expanded to what we're seeing threatened now? And that is some kind of erased sovereignty between Canada, the United States, and Mexico. I mean, actually, we're all Americans, aren't we?
Yeah, what it is Mexico is mainly Spanish and was owned by Spain, even Louisiana, and parts of North New Mexico and parts of California in the Baja, down the Baja Peninsula. That was all owned by Spain.
Mm-hmm.
And we overtook it and pushed them out, and we actually, like they did to the American Indians here, they just, the white people came in and took everything over, and then the French owned part of it, and especially in Canada, and then the French helped down here in the Revolution and the fighting and so on and so forth. And in fact, a little known part in history is the French was the first ones to do the scalping, and then they blamed it on the American Indian. The American Indian picked it up from the French.
Oh, it's payback.
Yeah.
Ouch.
But, all these things that people don't have any general knowledge of, that if they did, they'd boot this government out faster than you could light a match.
And the only problem is, though, what do you replace it with?
Well, that's the problem. You'd have to replace it. Now, I've always thought, hey, if everybody claims, oh, gee, this is divinely inspired, well, it wasn't. And everything was under God, and everybody was talking about it. Why not put His law as the law of the land?
Are you asking me?
Sure, why not?
Well, I tell you what, you're asking somebody who feels that if we were under divine law, we'd have a whole lot better society.
Oh, yeah, we would. But a lot of people don't like it. That's why there's so many fractions. That's why, the Lord never created a religion. Nothing like Catholic, Buddhist, libertarian, You know, there was no religion. It's
Right.
not a religion. There was all these offshoots that came off, you know, like the Episcopalians broke off from the Catholic, most of it, the Lutherans and the Baptists, and they're all offshoots of someone that didn't like what was going on in the Catholic part and decided they would create their own religion. That's all it is.
Mm-hmm.
But if you read in the Bible, he never created a religion. His church was his law, and it was on this rock, which meant the earth, you know. I set my church upon this rock. He wasn't talking about Peter or anybody else, you know. That was his law, his constitution, and if you want it, okay. If you want to have mammon take over you, well, go ahead. But don't come complaining to me that, you know, mammon is doing this to you. You wanted it. You have free choice. You have free will.
Right.
It's either my way or their way. And if it's their way, don't bother me.
Well, I would agree that there is this thought that the Founding Fathers was just so predominantly Christian.
Oh, yeah, they were.
You think they were?
Sure.
Okay, because I don't think necessarily what they wrote as the Constitution reflects it. I think that...
Oh, no.
Well,
no, that wasn't. That was the works of the Crown in 1783 in the treaty. That was the initiating point for creating the Constitution, to allow the people to be free, but not the governments themselves and the plantations, because the Crown still wanted to control them.
all right, and would you say that, for instance, Jefferson and Franklin, who were pretty heavy hitters in that whole crew, were less Christian as they were probably rationalists? And
yeah, because after all, you remember, all those people that had the Constitution had property over in England. It wasn't just here. They were millionaires over in England, and they were here. And the Crown says, you do it our way, or we're going to seize every piece of property you got over here, and you ain't going to have squat, and we'll run a blockade against the United States because you don't have a Navy. We got all the Navy we want. We'll run a blockade against you, so if you don't kowtow to what we tell you to do, you're dead meat. So what would they do? If you owned and millionaires and had castles and loads of property in Europe, and you came over here and you started to fight with them and saying all this stuff, and they said, well, hey, we're going to take all your planes and your boats and your trains and your Ferraris and your castles and everything, and you ain't going to have nothing, what would you do?
Revolt?
Well, yeah, you'd revolt, or you'd say, okay, don't take my stuff off. What do you want me to do?
Oh, you want to do? Okay.
Yeah, that's what they did.
All right.
So anyway, in Barron, that's what they said. In other words, each state established a constitution and all this. So the powers they conferred on this government were to be exercised by itself, and the limitations on power are, and expressed in general terms, are naturally, we think, necessarily applicable to the government created by the instrument. That means the Constitution.
Okay.
There are limitations in powers in the instrument, and it goes on and talks about that. But the bottom line was, if these propositions be correct, the Fifth Amendment must be understood as restraining the power of general government, not as applicable to the states. That's why he couldn't do it. The counsel for the plaintiff in error insisted the Constitution was intended to secure the people of the several states against the undue exercise of power by the respective state governments, as well as against that which might be attempted by the general government, which meant the United States. In support of this argument, he relies on the inhibitions contained in the 10th section of the first article. We think that section affords a strong, if not a conclusive, argument in support of the opinion already indicated by the court. That means that you're screwed, people in the States. You can't use the Bill of Rights. So they go into the 9th section in the nature of the Bill of Rights, intended to be imposed on the powers of the general government. The 10 proceeds to enumerate those which operate on the state. The restrictions are brought together in the same section, and they are expressed in words applied to the states. Quote, no state shall enter in any treaty, etc. Perceiving that in a constitutional framed by the people of the United States, not the states now, For the government of all, no limitation of the action of the government on the people would apply to the state government, unless expressed in terms. The restrictions contained in the 10th section are in direct words, so applied to the states. That's the only thing in the Bill of Rights that applied to the states, not the people.
What's the difference between the states and the people?
Pardon?
What's the difference between the states and the people? Are they seen as being different?
No. If you go read the definition in ATG Press on person, there's just a little caption on there. Scroll down to find person, and you open that up. It will tell you what the people means. People are a body politic, are part of the corporation. So if you're a people, the Constitution was ordained and established by the people of the United States for themselves, for their own government, and not for the government of the individual states. How do you like that?
You want to translate that?
That means that, like I said, when Congress, which is the United States, mother and father?
Right.
Okay. I just stated that you are of, belonging to, or from your mother and father.
Then, what does the word America do to change any of the color of the United States?
The United States belonging to America. America is the country. The United States is not the country. Americations and restrictions on the powers of its particular government as the judgment dictated. The people of the United States, now they're talking about the states. So this is where people have got to learn. The United States is not the United States, what they believe to be. The United States is that little bunch of criminals, the 535 people called Congress. In other words, Congress is doing business as the United States. Plain and simple. That's the bottom line of the whole thing.
Now, is the United States of America a different thing?
Nope. The United States of America. Of is, if you go to the dictionary, any dictionary means belonging to. Are you not of your mother? Set up the Bill of Rights. It was only for them and their constituents in the District of Columbia for their own government and not for any of the governments of the individual states.
Well, what
it says each state established a constitution for itself, and in that constitution provided such limitations